Yeah, I was first introduced to David Bohm back in 1984 when one of my spiritual teachers recommended that I read Wholeness in the Implicate Order. So I read that book, and at that time I'd always been looking for a name, an idea to bring the movement of movements together. And as I read that book and I came across the term Holomovement, I thought, that is the most beautiful concept I have ever come across. It describes the oneness of consciousness. And what's more, it's a great term, a single word, a movement of wholeness. What could be better? So, yeah, that was back in 1984. But at that time, I thought, aha, this is it. I like this. Had a little bit of work to do along the way, so took some years getting it all together. But that was my first introduction to David Bohm. Took a great interest in his life, not only as a physicist, but as a human being. He was an extraordinary man. Unfortunately exiled by the United States by the McCarthy Commission on Un-American Activities. But anyway, he survived all that, uh, lived in Brazil, and then the end of his life in the UK. But I read a lot of other of his books and just really got into his physics and philosophy. He was a good friend of Krishnamurti. The Dalai Lama called him his scientific guru. So he was a man that was widely respected, a visionary, unfortunately for him, a little too far ahead of his time. But now his work has been vindicated. The Nobel Prize in 2022 awarded three physicists that validated the theory of non-locality, which is really essential for Bohm's original theory of quantum physics to work. And Bohm wrote that back in 1952. So here we are a little over 70 years later, but better late than never for a great idea whose time has come. And the story of his life, his physics, his philosophy, his work on creativity, dialogue, just in many, many ways, man who inspired me and above all seems to have created the most plausible, at least from my point of view, theory of quantum physics and how it works. Um, there's an implicate order, which is the source of consciousness in other terms, and that's the field that holds the infinite potential of the universe. And the implicate order, via the Holomovement, expands, grows into the explicate order as manifest reality, us sitting here together today. But it's oneness. That's the thing. It's unbroken wholeness, the unbounded consciousness of the universe. And so the Holomovement is what ties it together. It flows from that implicate order, the source, manifests itself, but continues to flow, to be coded from the implicate order to manifest itself and keep that flow going. So it's this unbounded flow of wholeness between source consciousness and manifest reality, never ending, unbounded, and holding the oneness. And it was really an explanation of how can all be one if we all look like separate beings and there's so much difference between this hard rock and the source of consciousness. And Bohm really tackled that question and I think answered it quite well. And even now, modern day science, I think, is about ready to buy into it as well. So a wonderful man, great thinker, beautiful human being, and a fine example for all of us, as well as a fantastic physicist.